Welcome to This Explainer. Right now, we are stepping 700 years back in time to embark on what is, without a doubt, one of the most epic, terrifying, and ultimately triumphant journeys in all of human history. Seriously, we're going to navigate through the absolute darkest pits of hell, climb the grueling mountain of purgatory, and then soar into the highest reaches of the cosmos. And the crazy part? It all begins with just one man, an exiled poet from the beautiful city of Florence, Italy, sentenced to be burned alive at the stake if he ever re-entered the city. I want you to just think about the sheer gravity of those words for a second. This wasn't a warning, it was a promise of an agonizing death. But it begs the question, right? I mean, what could a poet, a man of words and verses, possibly do to earn such a brutal, terrifying fate from his own hometown? Well, to understand that, we have to look at the explosive, literally bloody landscape of 14th century Italy. Section 1. The world on fire. Okay, let's dive into this. Europe was clawing its way through the Dark Ages, and you have these two massive power structures locked in a violent tug-of-war, the Holy Roman Emperor and the Catholic Pope. Let's look at how this played out specifically in Florence. The city was basically fractured into two warring factions. On one side, you have the White Guelphs. They wanted less interference from the Pope and way more independence for the cities. This happened to be the faction our poet, Dante Alighiri, belonged to. And on the other side, the Black Guelphs, who wanted to grant even more power and control to the Pope. So, in the late 13th century, Dante's faction, the White Guelphs, suffered a crushing defeat right when victory seemed pretty much within reach. The Black Guelphs, who were heavily backed by Pope Bonifacius VIII, took complete control. They accused Dante of corruption and slapped him with this massive fine. Dante, who had basically lost everything in the conflict, couldn't pay it, and so in 1301, the church ordered him out. If he returned without the money, the fires awaited him. Dante was forced to leave his beloved Florence, embarking on an agonizing 20-year exile from which he would literally never return. Section 2. Exile and a New Language. Wandering from city to city, Dante was plunged into his own personal purgatory. But he channeled that intense rage and hatred for his enemies into a literary rebellion, making a truly radical choice. He flat out refused to write his masterpiece in Latin. Now, at the time, Latin was the exclusive language of the elite, the priests, and the bishops. The everyday person couldn't read a single word of it. Instead, Dante wrote his epic poem in the everyday street language of the common man. And this brilliantly illustrates how he bypassed the elite entirely, making his profound satire and storytelling accessible to the masses. This one single decision caused the everyday language to spread like wildfire. It flourished so immensely that it essentially birthed modern Italian. Dante literally became the father of the Italian language. Section 3. Descending into the Inferno. So, what did he actually write? He wrote an epic journey that begins in a dark, terrifying forest, and this epic is built heavily on the symbolic number 3. The poem itself is absolutely massive, broken into 3 distinct parts: Inferno, which is hell, Purgatorio, purgatory, and Paradiso, paradise. It's also meticulously structured around the number 9. As Dante is guided by the ancient Roman poet Virgil, a guy who lived 2,000 years prior, they discover that hell isn't just some random pit. It's an incredibly specific architectural funnel divided into 9 descending circles. And the punishments within these circles, they are deeply ironic, perfectly matching the earthly sins of the people trapped there. In the first circle, limbo, good people who simply weren't baptized are punished only by eternal sorrow and sighing. But as they go deeper, it gets incredibly visceral. The lustful, who let their bodies be swept away by passion and life, are now literally and violently tossed around by stormy, eternal winds. The greedy are sunk into freezing swamps with hail raining down on them, while the 3-headed dog gnaws on them. Those who insulted religion, they're trapped inside burning graves. Now here is where Dante uses his art to exact his ultimate revenge. Remember Pope Boniface VIII, the guy who helped exile him? Well, when Dante reaches the 8th circle of hell, he finds impostors and duplicitous people, and right there, thrust upside down into holes in the ground with fire blazing from the soles of their feet, are Pope Boniface VIII and his predecessor, Pope Nicholas III. Dante literally wrote his real-life political enemies into eternal damnation. How wild is that? Finally, they reach the absolute bottom, the 9th circle. Interestingly, the deepest pit of hell isn't made of fire, it's freezing, biting cold. Here, traitors are encased in solid ice.
And in the very center, they confront Lucifer himself, the ruler of hell. Somehow, Dante and Virgil manage to navigate past him, finally climbing out of the Earth's crust to see the stars glittering in the open sky once again.
Section 4. The Climb to the Light.
Escaping that suffocating darkness, Dante takes a massive breath of fresh air. But there's a really poignant changing of the guard that happens here. Virgil, Dante's faithful guide through hell, is a pre-Christian Roman. Because of this, he actually cannot enter heaven. He has to leave Dante behind. But Dante isn't left alone. Stepping in to guide him is Beatrice. This is incredibly touching, because Beatrice was a real girl from Florence who Dante first saw and fell completely in love with when he was just 9 years old. She married someone else and died tragically in her early youth. Now, in his masterpiece, Dante elevates his last childhood love to be his divine guide.
With his new guide, they begin the climb. Just like the Inferno, Purgatory is another massive structure of 9 circles. The bottom 2 circles hold those who waited way too long to seek forgiveness. Then the 7 upper circles are where souls are actively cleansed of their sins, starting with the proud at the very bottom and ending with the lustful near the top. And right at the summit of this mountain, it's the biblical earthly paradise, the very Eden from which Adam and Eve were exiled. From Eden, Beatrice guides Dante up into the cosmos, straight into Paradiso. Just like hell and purgatory, heaven is structured in 9 concentric spheres. The lowest sphere is the moon, and they ascend all the way up to the 9th sphere, the primum mobile, where the angels dwell. But the journey doesn't even stop there. Beyond the physical universe lies the Empyrean. It's a realm of pure light, which Dante describes as the actual house of God. Inside a giant, glorious rose formed by souls and angels, Beatrice finally takes her place, and Dante is granted the ultimate vision. According to the Christian belief of his time, he doesn't see, an old man with a beard. He visualizes God as 3 distinct, intertwined spheres of brilliant light, representing the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. His soul is finally completely absorbed into the all-pervading love of God. Section 5. The Legacy of Dante. Dante's staggering journey comes to a close. But you might be wondering, with all the terrifying demons, burning graves, and frozen traitors we just talked about, why on earth is this called a comedy? So the crucial point is understanding the 14th century definition of the word. Back then, comedy didn't mean it was funny. A comedy was simply any story that started with tragedy and darkness, but ended with happiness, resolution, and hope. Because Dante starts lost in a terrifying forest and journeys through hell, but ends bathed in the glorious light of heaven, it fits the definition perfectly. Interestingly enough, Dante himself just called it La Commedia, or the comedy. The word divine was actually tacked on by reverent priests much, much later. Today, its legacy is just staggering. I mean, it played a vital role in delivering Europe from the unchecked power of the medieval clergy. It has inspired thousands of paintings, countless PhD dissertations, and massive pop culture hits, like Dan Brown's best-selling novel Inferno. People still flock to Italy from all over the globe just to see Dante's grave. And, history has a fantastic sense of irony. In 1301, Florence exiles Dante under the threat of being burned alive. In 1321, he dies in exile, heartbroken but immortalized by his work. Fast forward to the year 2008, the City Council of Florence officially dropped all corruption charges against Dante and overturned his conviction. That's right, 701 years after they banished him, they finally gave him a clean slate and awarded him the city's highest honor. Better late than never, I guess. It took over 700 years for a city to forgive a poet who literally invented their modern language and mapped out the afterlife for Western civilization. It really leaves us with an incredible thought to end on. If Dante's words of revenge, love, and redemption can echo so powerfully through 7 centuries, what modern stories, if any, will we still be decoding and finding ourselves in 700 years from now? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep seeking out the great stories, and I'll catch you next time.